Hello everyone, and welcome to a quick demonstration for a little bit of a redstone project I've been working on lately, using some of the newest capacities of command blocks. So, I've got Remember Cam over here, and I've got a few things set up. So basically what this does is it implements a few sort of cosmetic or aesthetic kind of touches, and then it majorly implements these guys over here. This is the four. They are, individually, the Assar, the Denali, the Carbin, and the Orist. Or, if you want to use very traditional fantasy terms, the elves, the dwarves, the goblins, and the ents. Or the tree guys, I guess, I don't know. Dryads, possibly? Anyways, so basically, each individual race is its own team. You can do this using just a numerical variable inside of, say, a race objective, but I'm using teams presently. I may change that based on a few things that come in handy here. And each individual person in each individual class gets a specific set of abilities. These are a positive, a neutral, and a negative. So that overall they are pretty much balanced. So, the Assar get a jump boost, night vision when they're very high up, and they are weak whenever they are below that altitude. So to demonstrate, I shall run over here and trigger Assar. So you can see that my name on the right hand side there has changed color. If I was to push this at a greater distance than Remember Cam presently is, then his name would also change, but I've presently set it to be invisible if we're in different things. So let me just change that. So scoreboard teams option. Let's see, it's name tag visibility, I believe. Doop-a-doop. Always. No team found by. Oh yes, because for some reason it has really weird positioning. There. So now I can see Remember Cam, and I can see his color on the name. So you can always see that, but there's a problem that I'll get into in a bit as to why. I think it's a bug, I'm not really sure, but as to why I'm not going to be having that on standard. But as you can see, I've got weakness because I'm fairly low down in altitude right now. We're only at level 56. And I've got jump boost, and it's jump boost 2, so more than fences, I can jump up 2 block high spaces. And if I fly all the way up, actually I shall just set it to night first. Oop, goblins and such. If I fly all the way up, then I get night vision perpetually. It's 10 seconds because anything less than that starts to flash, so as soon as I go beneath it, it warns me that I'm running out of night vision. Okay. Now, the Assar then are basically, they're guys who are meant to be high in the altitude. They're meant to be climbing up mountains, scaling tall trees, that kind of thing. And they have weakness at low levels, so they're better off using bows and arrows. So there are elves, basically. Now, counter to them is the Denali, the dwarves. They get haste when they're underground. Specifically, that means that they are good at mining very quickly. They also get night vision when they're low down. And, whoop, there is one of the endermites running around. Haven't had a chance to see those, but anyways. They also get mining fatigue when they're above ground, so they have issues with regards to building structures above ground very quickly. So, let's see, we can just take a look at them, or their abilities. So, weakness, because I'm fairly high up. Weakness because it changed to Remember Cam first. Yeah, come on. Play nice, thank you. There we go. Okay, so, mining fatigue because I'm fairly high up. If I go lower down, I get my night vision and haste, so now I can mine things out faster. And I can also explore caves without having to worry too much about the lighting that comes after that. So that's the Denali. They're fairly straightforward in that regard. They're just more or less the opposite of the Assar. Although they don't get weakness, so at sea level, the Denali can overpower the Assar, which is why they're better off using bows at sea level. Now, we have the Carbin, and this is where we get into a little bit of a problem, because if I switch to the Carbin, you can see that they get speed and weakness constantly. So they can run around quick as they like. I should note that none of these racial abilities add particle effects, even though they are giving us potion effects. That's thanks to a new part of the /effect command. But they also have this particular ability in their neutrals. They have constant speed, constant weakness, and invisibility when their health is less than or equal to 3. So if I hop into game mode 0, and I stand against this cactus for a bit, you will eventually see me turn invisible. You can see my health ticking down on the right hand side there, that's how this is achieved. So there I am, I am completely invisible. Actually, I'll just take a bit more damage there so it sticks around longer. So I am invisible, and there's a problem, which is if say Remember Cam was invisible, because he would be in a different team, for whatever reason the name tag remains visible. That, I think, is a bug, unless something has changed very recently that I'm not aware of, so I've had to disable name tag visibility between teams, which has its own interesting implications, because it means you don't know the name of the player that you're talking to offhand, you just sort of have to ask them. Or maybe check the player lists. But you also don't know what their race is, because you can't see the color of their name. So that's an interesting one. Might lead to some interesting stuff. So the Carbin are most suited to open plains kind of areas, so they can take advantage of their speed, because they're faster than every other race. But they can't really do as much damage. They have to like do ambush attacks, they have to do drive-by attacks, they have to work together in a team. Their invisibility is probably the most interesting feature the Carbin have, because it makes first and foremost, it makes it easier for them to escape a losing fight. So if they're dying very close to death, they can flee and they're invisible, so it's much harder to follow them. But if they stay at low health, for example if their hunger is down, like mine is at the moment, then they can potentially serve as very discreet thieves. Although, if they are caught, they are basically screwed. So they're pretty much our hobbits, our burglars who aren't very capable in combat. And then we have possibly my favourites, the Orist. Now, the Orist are our tree guys. They are people who are very good inside of, say, the forests. And, ooh, yep, we're just showing off one of the effects that I'll get to in a second. So let me just hop back and grab some health. You'll do. Okay, so the Orist have a constant strength. So they're sort of the counter. Each of the races has its own opposite. So the Orist have strength, whereas the Carbin have weakness, and the Orist have slowness, whereas the Carbin have speed. So they're slow, sort of plodding guys, but they're really good in melee combat. So the Orist can't outrun the Carbin, but if they happen to have them in tight quarters, sort of like a forest or a jungle or something to that effect, then the Orist can make very good on hitting the Carbin. So if the Carbin get cornered by the Orist, they're basically screwed. There's no chance of them surviving. And then they have probably one of the more interesting abilities in their neutral, which is that they turn dirt into grass. So I just grab some dirt, and I lay out a quick little thing here. You can see when I'm standing on it, it is turning into grass. And that's because the Orist are nature guys. It's sort of their thing. It's one of the less useful kind of abilities that are on the list, but the Orist's strength makes it kind of worth it. So it sort of makes it counter to the Carbin's invisibility. The Orist always leave a trail if they're in dirt. But it sort of also cements the fact that they're better off in forests, where their trail is less apparent, perhaps. And where they will be better off. Now, there is also the aesthetic effects. So, let me see, scribbled teams, leave for a moment. There's these aesthetic effects. So wait for that, yep. So, there are 3 effects that are presently running. And the first one there you've got a brief glimpse of. So if I just walk back against this cactus in game mode 1, or game mode 0, until my health is suitably low, you can see that I am bleeding. I am leaving a drip lava effect behind me, so that you could potentially follow my blood trail, because I am so low on health. Now the Carbin are the exception to this. The Carbin don't leave a trail like this. but conversely the Carbin also turn invisible, so there is actually one caveat to the Carbin's invisibility ability. Wow. And that comes in here. So if I just grab some health again, so that I am not bleeding, so this is clearer to see. So here we have a pool of water, and if I hop into it, we can begin to see that I am dripping. I have gotten wet. And so once again, I can leave a trail. This one wears off after time, unlike the blood effect, which requires that you actually regain health. And there we go, it's all gone. And it lasts longer the longer that you are in the water. So if I switch to the Carbin again, so scoreboard, teams, join, Carbin. I got my speed boost back. And if I walk into a cactus in game mode 0, until I turn invisible, there we go. So I don't have the blood effect, because the Carbin turn invisible when they're at low health. But if I walk through this water, you can see that my invisibility has turned off. It doesn't work if they're wet. And just as soon as the water effect wears off, which we should see in a moment, yep, it resumes as long as I'm at low enough health. So if you wanted to protect your player base against the Carbin breaking in whilst they're at very low health and being all ninja-like, just add a moat, basically. Just make it so that you have to walk through water to get in. Very simple. So the Carbin have this advantage that they can use, but it's not overpowering. That's sort of the key of all of these abilities. And the last effect sort of relies on a random variable up here. So you can see I've got a number of different randomizers. These are just droppers with just random one block, 64 stack blocks, and then one that doesn't stack, like that. And that's just going into a comparator to trigger the next thing, and this overall, I believe, works out to a 1 in 18 chance of this triggering. But you will know it when it does. Now, I believe that Remember Cam is hungry at the moment, and you can sort of use these abilities, these effects, as a marker of exactly how someone else is doing. So if someone's very low on health, you can see that they're bleeding, so they're low on health, and if they're low on hunger, then very occasionally, and I don't think I have hunger for this, so let's run around a little bit while I see if I can work up an appetite. Very occasionally, then you will be affected by this one command block here triggering. The bulk of this is to make this work, because there isn't actually a stat or a variable we can attach to with the objective system for hunger. There is one for health and swimming, but not one for hunger, strangely enough. So, as I lose hunger, this system keeps track of what my hunger is at. It does that by checking for people who are at a certain value in hunger, because you can tack onto it, but you can't attach a variable to it, slightly annoyingly. So there's like 21 pieces there for keeping track of hunger. And when you are at, I believe it's 5 hunger or less, I'm at 6 at the moment, so this shouldn't take too long. A little bit more, come on. Have a bit of a swim, come on. There we go, okay. So I am now at 5 hunger, and my stomach is rumbling. So that's another thing for Carbin to worry about if they're trying to be stealthy. They need to keep fed up, but of course eating is a very loud action. And every now and then, that will successfully trigger the second dropper, which will successfully, potentially, trigger the command block, and it makes a stomach rumbling noise from a random person who has low low hunger. And this thing over here is just a big bedrock box that I've made to sort of randomly assign the races, because that's sort of my ideal, is that you will not be able to select your own races, but of course it's very simple because I've got a wall there that's doing it. So I can just attach that to people who aren't in a class to choose their, well, who aren't in a team to select their own races, but only the once. And then otherwise, this is all of the mechanics that are going through to have all of the races do their thing. So this is 3 command blocks per race, just running very quickly, and it's targeting on specific teams, as you can see there, Orist. and it's very simple, and it adds an interesting tweak to the gameplay, I think. So I'm going to keep working on this for a little bit, keep balancing it, tweaking it around, working out various other things I could maybe add onto it. Like for example, I could occasionally have a stick fall off of the Orist and just have it be unpickable, and then just despawn soon after, sort of a tree man kind of effect. The Orist are really like big shooting board, that kind of thing. But I could maybe like have the Carbin, if they're not invisible for obvious reasons, I could have them chuckle or something, depending on what kind of effects I want to feel like adding, just to round them out a bit. But that is it for now. I hope you've enjoyed this kind of sneak peek or look at something I'm working on, because I do tinker around with redstone quite a lot. But other than that, I shall catch you all next time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and or favorite. Follow me on Twitter and subscribe to be notified of future updates. You can also check out the website where most other content is uploaded. That's all for now. Catch you later.